Hello everyone, it's 1437 here from MTA, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about 5 cards that I think is going to be nerfed before Season 19. But before we get into the video, I would like to ask you to like and subscribe to the channel and push that bell notification so you will know when the next video will be out. When Season 18 ended, a lot of players asked me about what cards I thought were going to be balance changed, so I decided to make a list. The first card on our list is Cute Bunny. Oh! I think I got the wrong tooltip for Cute Bunny. But to be fair, this is what the card probably feels like when you get hit in the face by it. This is probably the most accurate assessment of what the card truly is.
Alright, joking aside,
Let's look at Cute Bunny and why it's actually so strong. Let's look at the stats of Cute Bunny. It's 120 damage and 30 shield. This is, I would say, a little bit above average in terms of what it can do. And on top of that, it's got its crazy ability of being able to fear an Axie twice. What this means is if another Axie doesn't use a card and remove one of the fear charges, when it comes to the turn of the Axie who is feared to attack, the first 2 attacks will miss. Now you might say, hey, you need to play in a chain. But nowadays, a lot of players have found a lot of really good bug cards that you can play alongside Cute Bunny, like for example, Antenna, and allow Cute Bunny to be much easier to execute. And even if you don't get that fear effect off on the Cute Bunny, the damage itself on the card is incredibly good. Currently, the top 100 is plagued by Cute Bunny players, and if it's not just Cute Bunny, it's going to be Antenna plus Cute Bunny combo, and it's just an absolute miserable experience to play against. In most situations, this card can be just 120 damage bug damage card, but the upswing on this card can potentially remove 2 energy worth of cards from your opponent. There's no other card in the game that can achieve such a result as Cute Bunny does. I fully expect some damage nerfs onto Cute Bunny. A lot of people have talked about moving the fear into 1 fear instead of 2, but I think that might be a little too much. Maybe just some stat changes on the card, reducing its damage output could be the way that you want to balance this card. Alright, card number 2, we got Double Talk, aka Soothing Song. A lot of you must be wondering why in some of your games there are attacks that are
going through your shield.
Well, Double Talk is one of those cards. Here, Double Talk 80 damage goes through your shield, and then the follow-up attack as well goes through your shield. So if you're playing against a bird with this kind of skill set, you might see yourself getting deleted from 100 to 0 regardless of how much shield you put up, especially if the build has Ronin in it. Double Talk Ronin bird, probably one of the strongest birds in the game, and it can even delete a plant from 100 to 0 regardless of how much shield you have. And the only real counterplay to this is probably Wall Gecko, a card that reduces the amount of damage that you take. At the end of Season 18, we saw a lot of double plant builds with this bird at the back, where the bird will pretty much just delete the first 2 Axies and then use the eggshell to kill itself off, so that your midline unkillable plant with Zigzag would be able to 1 versus 1, or in some situations 1 versus 2 your opponent. There are other Axies who also utilize Double Talk, like Beast or Aquas, even some Terminator builds like to play Double Talk over Chomp. That being said, and considering all the things that Double Talk can do for you, I think this card's damage might just be a little too high. I know previously it was lower and they had to bump it up to 80 to make it a playable card, but I do feel like there are other ways that you can change this card. Maybe making it have some kind of a trigger effect where you need to play multiple cards with it, or you can just make it so that it's only usable once per turn. I would say if you bring it down to 70 or 60 damage, it's still okay. That way a full 4-card clip from the bird cannot delete your Axie, which I think is probably the biggest problem. Alright, moving on to the third card, the infamous Grass Snake, aka Venom Spray. During Season 18, there was a huge surgence of poison teams that were plaguing the leaderboards, but near the end, we saw them lose quite a bit of steam, and that's because most of the players started figuring out how to play against them. They've also made teams that were optimized to defeat the grass snake teams. That being said, I think a card that is so polarizing that is forcing the entirety of the top players to optimize their build just to beat this one team might make it a little too strong. And even with all that optimization, the rank 1 player on the leaderboard still finished by playing a grass snake team. Personally, I feel like grass snake lineups are very easy to execute. All you really have to do is wait for your combo cards, throw them out as soon as you find the right timings on them, and then just watch your opponent take away. The only real thing you need to do in these builds is try not to kill your opponent too quickly so that the poison is constantly taken away and they keep splitting their draws. So if we look at grass snake, there isn't a lot of stats on it. So I'm very curious as to how they're going to balance this card out, as I don't really have an easy solution to it. There is a way that they can do it by balancing some of the other cards in the build and indirectly nerfing grass snake in that way as well. Personally, I want to see death to the poison teams. I am done playing against these guys. And the fourth card on the list, and the one that's going to most likely catch you guys by surprise and make you think, why? It's Nemo. I believe Nemo to be one of the most played cards in Axie Infinity. Almost every single Aqua deck will be running it, and there are also other Axies in different bodies who would like to have Nemo in their build if it would be possible. Energy gain is such a strong aspect in this game, and when you add 30 damage to that, it just becomes such an incredible card. Let's compare Nemo to Cottontail. Cottontail, a 0 damage, 0 shield card where you can gain 1 energy. I know that you don't really need to combo it, but at the same time, if you ask any player, they would prefer in most situations to have that 30 extra damage and give you that energy along with it. On top of that, Nemo, an Aqua card, provides you with 3 speed and 1 health, whereas Cottontail, a Beast card, provides you with 3 morale and 1 speed. In Axie Infinity, the HP and the speed aspect is something more sought out for than the morale. So that's another small thing as to why Nemo is just a far superior card than Cottontail. When thinking about balance changes, you want to consider what cards are overused and how you can bring them either down or up to the standard that you want. Looking at Tail Slap, I feel like this is just too powerful of a card on its own, and a lot of the bracket between 1200 and 1700 are plagued with Aquas who pretty much run Nemo in every single one of those builds. And some situations, they even run multiple of them. That being said, I do feel like Aquas currently are not in the greatest place, but with the nerfs to some of these other cards, that may make Aquas have a resurgence. So please, Jihoz,
Make Aquas great again.
Alright, last but definitely not least on our list, we got Tiny Turtle, aka Chomp. I know, I got that little termy there right in front of our screen. I'm not trying to trigger your PTSD, guys, but yeah, we knew this was coming. Ever since Jihoz talked about it, termies, they're bound to get nerfed. Now, I do feel like termies getting nerfed is not because of them being such a dominant Axie in the top 100, but it's because there are just so many of them, and most teams can't really handle the double stun factor from this Axie. On top of that, I do believe if it wasn't for the resurgence of these poison teams, Terminators would be even more dominant at the moment. I believe between the ranks of 1700 and 2100, that's where most of the Terminators at the moment are existing, and it is just absolute hell for most of the players there. I don't feel like Terminators are the only reason as to why Tiny Turtle is going to most likely see a nerf. There are other Axies that also utilize this card, and that is why I chose Tiny Turtle to be the card that I feel like should be slightly adjusted before we see any adjustments to Snail Shell, Lagging, or Thorny Caterpillar, because those cards are not as highly used as Tiny Turtle is. Cards just seem to go through shields or force your opponent to use a card in order to remove the debuff, just seem extremely powerful in Axie Infinity. The way I see Tiny Turtle getting nerfed is most likely on its damage. I feel like if you nerf the shield, you might technically be buffing Terminators, as when you use the Snail Shell plus Tiny Turtle combo, now your shield becomes a little less than 110, where most cards on average deal that much damage, forcing your opponent when they have 2 damage cards to actually get stunned after the first hit. So maybe we might see Tiny Turtle go down to possibly even 70 damage. We saw in the version 2 leaks that they have a different effect on Tiny Turtle, but version 2 is not something that we're going to be see coming for a very long time. Okay, maybe not very long, but seeing as this off season has felt like forever for someone like me, version 2 is probably a very long ways away. As a bonus, I think the Gigaplant could also use some nerfs, maybe a little bit of changes to the Balance or the Zigzag. That being said though, this was a huge counter to the Poison team and was used with the Double Talk Bird near the end of season 18. I believe 70% of the leaderboard was this unkillable plant. But then again, if the poisons are gone and maybe Double Talk also sees a nerf, perhaps this plant won't be as useful. So if you guys got any stonks in the 5 cards that we mentioned today, don't be surprised if they seem to take a heavy hit, as they are some of the best cards in the game and just slightly too strong than your average ones. And that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe to our channel, and remember to push that bell notification so you know when the next video will be out. Senpai is patiently waiting for the new patch to hit, or even at least patch notes, so he can tell you what's gonna be good.